Secretary of State Michael Adams is going to have 4 more years as Kentucky's top election official.
He won his re-election last night and joins us this morning to talk about what is next. Before we get started, congratulations on winning your race.
Thanks, I'm glad to still be here.
Yes, sir, another 4 years.
Thank you.
But you put in a lot of work in promoting bipartisan efforts. We've talked about that to expand voting all across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Do you feel that that improved voter turnout for the election yesterday?
No, I don't think that the turnout went up per se, but what we saw yesterday that we didn't see a year ago was a very smooth election with no lines to speak of. We had no places where people were bottlenecked and out the door, and that's because so many voters took advantage of early voting. And I want to thank both Attorney General Cameron and Governor Beshear, because I asked each of them to promote early voting to their supporters, and they did. And getting more voters in early meant shorter lines yesterday.
What are your goals as we approach a huge election next year, a presidential year?
Well, there's no rest for the weary. 2024 is going to be tough because we're going to have a huge turnout, I think, probably like 60% like we had in 2020. But I don't have the same tools in my toolbox I had 3 years ago. I had emergency powers to be able to expand days and voting options and so forth. I don't have those. So I've got to find a way to get potentially 2 million people in and out in 4 days. It's going to be a real challenge. And so I'll be working with the clerks. I'll be working with, of course, the governor, working with legislators to come up with solutions and more funding as well.
What are your plans for the next 4 years? What changes do you plan to make? Or your goals?
Well, you know, I really want to keep our elections, I think, among the best in the country. This is going to take an immense amount of work. I also want to look more at the business side of my office. We've seen a huge spurt in business filings, business creation in our office, mostly homegrown entrepreneurs here in Kentucky. I want to help develop a culture of entrepreneurship in Kentucky as well.
What are some of the biggest challenges to having smooth elections in Kentucky? Is it finding poll workers?
Yeah, it is a challenge. And when I won the first time 4 years ago, even before I was sworn in, I testified to the legislature that the biggest challenge we had in Kentucky elections was getting poll workers. That was in November 2019. That was before COVID. That didn't help. We still have that challenge. Primarily, our volunteer poll workers are senior citizens. And my generation, I'm a Gen Xer, we just don't volunteer the way our parents and grandparents did, and my daughter's generation don't either. And so we need volunteers. We also need locations. And unfortunately, we've seen more and more locations drop out. They just don't want to be voting locations. Elections are too controversial and all of this. And so it's a real challenge to have physical locations and poll workers, but we'll do our best, and I feel confident we'll pull it off.
What are your long-term political aspirations? You have to serve in your current role for 4 years. Can you talk to us about, do you have any plans after that?
Well, I did announce last night I won't be a candidate for re-election in 2027. I'm term limited, so that'd be that easy.
Sure, that's right.
I don't have any firm, fixed plan for the future, but I'm on the bench and I'm available, and I look forward to serving however I can.
Well, we appreciate your time this morning.
Anytime.
I know that we will speak to you more times between now and the primary and then the general election next year, but please do keep us informed about what's going on to
Certainly will.
And ways that people out there who are watching this who think, you know what, I could help with that, ways they can get involved.
Well, we'll plug our portal next year, give it some time, but after the holidays, if you go to govote.ky.gov, you can volunteer to be a poll worker.
And it does pay.
It does, and we're raising the pay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
You know what? We need to take a day off, and we need to be poll workers.
We could. Well, I'm not sure they'll let us.
No, I don't think
not
they
on
will.
Election day, it's kind of big around
when we
here
retire
too.
one of these days,
Maybe,
we'll volunteer. Thank you for your time.
Thanks
so much.
Yeah.